Jason Statham. When I'm not busy jump-kicking guys to death, I'm listening to my favourite podcast, Rebrand. You know what I mean? Now enjoy this hilarious episode with Luke Null. He's like me, but if I were happy and not British. Oh, I wish I was Luke Null.
Whoa, the Stathman. That's what I call Jason Statham now that I know that he's a huge fan of the podcast Rebrand. What can I say? Hollywood is abuzz with the news that there's a hot new podcast in town. And that podcast is this one you're listening to, Rebrand. What's up, dudes? Excited for you guys to hear this episode. It's super funny. Luke Null is a tremendous guest, bringing the heat. That's what we call in the business things that are funny. And you know what, guys? Why don't you tell a friend about Rebrand? You can even do the thing where you share the episode through texts. I think that's a fun idea. I do that with people. Yeah, we're just super happy with the way these episodes are coming along, and we're trying to get the word out. Also, we've got a Patreon. Feel free to join it if you're so inclined. If not, no biggie. It's at Rebrand the Pod on Patreon. You get ad-free episodes, unreleased content. Ashley and I just did a Q&A recently. I talked like this the entire time. Just kidding, I was normal. And that's it. I hope you guys have a beautiful day and enjoy this episode with Luke Null.
Rebrand! Ding! Oh, Cody's licking my armpit. Cody's licking my armpit. Hello, beloved consumers. I'm Ashley Birch.
And I'm Mort Burke.
Woo! And welcome to Rebrand. That felt crazy. A comedy podcast where we inject new life into tired old brands, whether they be snack food, celebrities, or religious institutions. Has Cody ever licked your armpit?
Yeah, the other day. I was lying in bed shirtless and he did a full-on, and it does feel like a power wash. Like, his tongue is incredibly powerful.
I like that you said that you were laying in bed shirtless, and I immediately imagined you in, like, a Fabio cover.
Oh, yeah. I was posed like Burt Reynolds in his Playgirl.
Yeah, exactly.
Fold out or whatever.
Yeah. Rose petals cascading on you from an unknown source.
Yeah, penis barely hidden behind my leg.
Yeah. Hair, for some reason, all the way down to your tailbone.
Yeah. Gorgeous blonde, flowing, thick, luxurious locks.
Cody's looking at your armpit and you wink at the camera. That's what I pictured immediately.
Yeah. For whatever creep is into that.
I feel like doggy's got to be like, armpit's got to be like a good spot to lick just because of like good smell. Like there's a lot of smell
happening.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
So gotta lick that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's probably getting a lot of information about that.
Yeah, your emotional state.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you're ill and you're sad.
Your nervous system has turned into poison.
I taste your illness seeping from you. Yeah.
Ooh, so sick.
You're about to get the flu.
Yum, yum, yum. Honey, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah, I can't wait. This is such a badass dude.
Oh my gosh.
Oh god, that's the most like stepdad thing I've ever said in my
I've
life.
never heard you introduce anyone that way.
No, that was humiliating that I said it. Guys, he was on Saturday Night Live.
It's true. It is true. It is technically true.
He's a goddamn hilarious comedian. He's touring all over. We're grateful to have him here. Guys, it's Luke Null.
Oh my goodness gracious, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I hope before I leave I can get a stinky part of myself licked by your pooch.
Luke is currently bent over about to pull his pants.
I'm presenting.
Look. So we have chosen a topic to rebrand today. Would you like to intro it, sweetie?
Yeah, a rich and powerful topic that I all think we've experienced. The good and the bad.
You got a wild energy today.
Yeah. Every once in a while I turn into a morning show DJ. We're going to talk about roommates. We're going to rebrand roommates, which I've been the nightmare roommate.
Oh, please tell.
Did you know you were in the moment, or did it take like a rear view mirror period where you went, oh no?
Now I look back and I'm like, oh, I was a desperate alcoholic. That's not a person you want to live with.
But if you live with other people at a similar level of alcoholism, it really masks it. And
That's
I can
all
say
good.
that as a borderline alcoholic in Chicago in my 20s, we were all at that level, and it took someone going over the line where you go, okay,
Yeah.
that person's bad. I was close.
Yes, totally. Like, if no one's doing the dishes and everyone is living off of beans, then it seems kind of fine for a while.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how many roommates, like, what was your amount that you were like, this is the most roommates I ever had?
I once lived, hold on, let me count. 2.
Oh no, we're carrying.
She's got to do long
carry
division.
the 2.
5, 6, 7.
Whoa.
7 people.
And this was not a commune. This was a...
No, this is a house with a back house. And then that's not counting any time that the person living in the downstairs bedroom had a partner.
Yes.
And then they were around a lot.
Yes.
Or the other person in the upstairs bedroom had a partner and they were
Those
around
are the
a lot.
worst.
Yeah.
When you have roommates and then they are in a long-term relationship where that person suddenly is living at your house.
Yes.
And you're like,
Right.
we're like, our house is already bad.
Yeah, totally. And the
Exactly.
more roommates, the more kind of those people everyone attracts. So then
yeah.
all of a sudden there's 70 people who everybody's kind of fucking in the same house.
Yes.
Yeah, it was 7 to 10 roommates, depending on the day. Is how,
Right.
is
Yeah, you're just
how it
living
ended
with
up
the
being.
arcade fire now. Just like 19 people.
And of Montreal might show up
Yeah.
real soon. Yeah, it's like,
What is the max
7
amount?
is a lot.
7's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. What about what's your max
My
roommate
max
count?
was I was one of 5
yeah.
in Chicago, and that was too much.
How
Yep.
many rooms though? That's the question.
No one was splitting. Everyone had like at least a little like Harry Potter room under the stairs kind of room. Like
Okay.
everyone, but there was one person who had a good giant bedroom, and we all agreed they had to pay more rent.
Of
Yeah.
course.
I'm like, you have
Absolutely.
the best room. You have access to not a private bathroom, but you only have to share with one guy. Mm-hmm. Like us 3 boys upstairs.
Yeah.
It's not going great. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you're stepping over each other to go to the
Yes.
bathroom
Right.
and all the be like, can you just not jack off tonight?
An
yes.
entity has formed from all of the muck and the hair
Yeah.
and
Oh,
everything.
And this isn't even like getting into like college roommate scenario,
Right.
which is also like a different level of like I remember as a freshman in college had roommate, and we were a quad, and it was one room, and so we literally had to have a jack off schedule on the wall.
You had it on the wall?
We had it on the wall because eventually we got to the point where we caught each other enough times where we're like, post your schedule of classes so that you know,
Yeah.
like, this is your 1 hour of the week
Yeah.
where no one else is in here.
Yeah.
Everyone else is in class and you're not. So this is your time to really crack your knuckles and indulge.
And
Yeah.
get in there.
Really get in there.
Yeah, you had to get pragmatic about it because everyone had experienced enough trauma of like seeing. Okay, so just to illustrate how disgusting dudes are, our friend Nathan used to do a character called Naked from the Waist Down Larry, who was a fun character who would show up every once in a while, had a song, went like this. Guess who always comes to town? Guess who never wears a frown? It's Naked from the Waist Down Larry.
Good bit.
And you'd look over it, fully naked except for a t-shirt.
He's Donald Duck in it.
A Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
Yep, except for with a human dick and balls.
And that's what you want.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's my next AI creation.
Yeah.
This is the thing. One thing that I'll say about AI. As a meme generator, excellent. The fact that you
sure.
could just go Winnie the Pooh with full dick and balls. What a joy to be alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it instantly is available to you in stunning 4K resolution.
So how are you the nightmare? What did that look like, being the nightmare roommate?
So I had the little tiny room that I couldn't make the $100 I was supposed to pay. I moved here when I was 30, and I was living on an inflatable air mattress. And 3 months in, they had to pull me aside and be like, "Hey, man, we love you. You're screwing with our money. Please give us $100." So I think that's the most egregious of it. But I'm also like fairly loving and kind. So it's hard to be super pissed at me when I won't stop smoking inside or empty the ashtray. You know?
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, you get 11 strikes before we bring it up.
Which is worse. I'm like manipulative with the fact that I'm a generous little
So
sweetheart.
you're a little cutie.
Yeah, so I make it harder to
to be
kick.
around.
Yeah, I make it harder to kick the fuck out when I need to go.
See, that is a tough thing of roommates when you're like friends before.
Yes.
Because like, I definitely like when I first moved to Chicago, I was moving straight from college, and I was living with an older guy who he was on the tail end of his years in Chicago. So like, shout out to Sean Keith, who I don't know if you ever knew Sean.
I think I do know Sean.
He was a improviser, great dude. But he was like pretty much done. It was like on his last year in Chicago or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm bushy-tailed, bright-eyed, and binge drinking, and don't know anyone. Don't have a job. I don't have a bed. I have a pull-out bed, like couch bed. It was bleak, but there were just moments of me being like, I paid the rent, but it was like I had not one extra dollar. Like I'm just doing we did the like I got us set up with the Nels or what's the Nielsen ratings system.
You were one of the houses.
I was one of the houses because they pay you $60 a month.
Nice.
Oh, shit.
To have it in your house and be collecting ratings. So I'm like, all right, I got the 60 coming in. Like it was stuff like that where I'm like doing the math of like, you know, how am I going to pay my very cheap rent?
Yeah.
But his leash for my bullshit was much shorter because we weren't friends.
Yep.
Right,
You know?
right.
Like he's like, you're a problem. Like right away being like, please get a job.
Yeah,
Anything of any sort, you must leave.
Yeah.
And he was right. Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's my personal rebrand for roommates is that only strangers.
It's better to have like acquaintance level friend. Like
Yes.
if you're gonna know them, like share a mutual friend.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're
but
not
strangers.
super tight.
So
we
they
see
can
each
be-
other at parties
yeah,
every so often.
They're a little vetted.
Yes.
They're a little vetted. They're not crazy.
Totally.
Yeah. You're not random Craigslist roommating.
Yeah.
But you are okay with hating that person in the near future.
Yeah, that's right. This
Like,
could
'cause you
end the
are-
And for the rest of your
relationship,
life.
and it's not going to be a huge fucking loss for your life.
And then when
Yes.
you see the friend that you share, that like you get to be like, why'd you do that?
Yeah, totally.
Like,
Right, you don't get to relinquish any responsibility
Yes,
for what
exactly.
happened. You're like,
Yeah.
you gave this person to me. How
Yeah.
dare you?
You didn't tell me he was a knife guy. You could have fucking like
That wasn't in the opening statement on this guy.
Yeah.
Big time knife guy.
Yeah. He's an electric guitar at 2 a.m. dude.
I did a bit of a no-no during my time in Chicago. Like you said, I got cast on SNL.
Yeah.
And essentially had to move out of my apartment overnight.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I basically was like, I have to find someone to live in this apartment so I don't break the lease. But I had 2 roommates, and I was like, do you guys have anyone that you know that you want to live here?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to find someone.
and the
not-
quality is going to be suspect.
And it was. And
It
he
was a convict, yeah.
It was a guy that was dealing. He ended up being like a big time dealer. Like big time acid dealer.
Acid.
Oh, acid.
Acid dealer.
I didn't think anybody sold acid anymore.
I mean, this was 2017. These were different times. You see?
That's true, yeah.
It's sort of like the most whimsical drug dealer you could have, probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's less spooky than like fentanyl.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Totally.
But on the, on the spectrum of drug dealing.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's more like rain stick hippie kind of
Yeah.
drug dealer than
Yeah.
like scary.
Yes.
You're hooked on psychological enlightenment, not
Yeah. More annoying than dangerous.
not hard
Yeah.
drugs. Yeah, totally.
And he was like learning keyboard at night and was like had for some reason a League of Legends like computer setup in the shared common area.
I love this guy. Can I just say? Big fan.
Like my roommates, my friends that lived in that apartment were like, still gotta say fuck you for that.
What was this guy's name?
Jameson.
No, it wasn't. His first name was Jameson?
Shout out to Jameson out there, dude. Thanks for paying my rent that 9 months or
That
whatever.
guy
it
is a
was.
fuking cartoon.
A true cartoon.
Hey, that's great.
And you know what? We're still to this day Duolingo friends.
Nice.
What's he been learning?
I think he learns Spanish or French. I know I'm French. I'm not sure what. I think one of those two though.
Okay,
There's
great.
definitely a group of, this is what's interesting too, is there's a group of people who that is the perfect roommate for. People
Sure.
that need acid, people that are learning
Oh, yeah.
bass guitar at night.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, those dudes, right? So it is, there's always a match for somebody, but generally that's a terrible roommate.
Which makes me wonder then if part of the rebranding of roommates is like there should be like a registry or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. You should have like an Uber rating, or
Yes.
or almost like a swipe right kind of like, or at least some
Oh,
of
I
your
like
history,
that.
or maybe even a Yelp review system.
Fucking stop the goddamn presses. The swipe right Tinder style framework for a roommate thing
roommates?
is a $1 billion idea.
That's
You're
very good.
Probably right.
yeah.
Do you regret saying it out loud now? That you want
but I thought of that. It's funny though, because like you would have sliders the same way that like on the apps you're like only 6'4" DJs.
Would you look at my Tinder?
Yeah, but I know in the age range is weird. For you.
Yeah. Under 20 or over 60. That's what I'm into.
under 20 or over to 60.
DJs?
None of those in between.
Yeah.
I wonder what the roommate slider would be. Like time you go to bed.
I would say like how much. Yes, I think bedtime. But like, do you have a job?
Yeah.
The slider for how much of a job you have.
How much could you pay?
1 to 10, 3 is a barista, 9 is like a CEO or whatever.
Right.
How passive aggressive are you? Tell me when to stop.
Yeah.
This is good because all the conversations with roommates are reminding me of my friend Katie, who lived at maybe the gnarliest house I've ever had to visit on a frequent basis.
Yeah.
But she was probably the worst among them, to be fair, in terms of like cleanliness. She was not helping the situation. But I feel for her because one of her roommates decided to start doing the game, and he offered up their place as like a meetup for all of these guys that were doing the game. And so she was there just one night when that was happening. And it was like a fucking zombie apocalypse of guys being like, hey, cool boots. I've seen them on a bunch of ladies already. Like just like guys like coming up to like practice their negging and like try to talk to her. And so she was like, I gotta leave.
That's the game.
I was wondering if you knew what that was.
Because I was trying to pick it up from context clues because at first I thought it was like the game where it's like, if you think about the game, you lose the game.
Oh, no.
Different game.
Different game.
And then I'm
Also
like, is this a swingers scenario? I'm like, no. These are all just guys with fedoras
Yes.
who are weird.
Yeah.
Do you remember this when it was really big in the 2000s? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mystery.
Yes.
The guy's name was?
Yeah. Horny, frightening nerds who have decided they can manipulate women into quote getting pussy. That is
really
that
bleak.
is the most heinous group of people I can imagine.
And
having
imagine
around.
being the lone woman living at a place, and he's like, some of my friends are gonna come by, and it turns out to be the game meetup, and you're like a fucking lamb in a den of wolves. You're like a piece of fresh meat
in a den of very nervous wolves.
Oh,
because they're even more terrified.
Yeah, and somehow all of those wolves have the posture of a newborn deer. Like their their little legs can barely keep them upright, but
They're
oh my
Bambi
god,
on the
they're
ice.
wolves. But do not tell them they're not wolves.
And they've got like a cat in the hat in order to like for them to stand out.
They got a peacock.
Yeah, from one of the other freaks that are in the room.
And they all do up close magic.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if those guys got to meet on the roommate app? And then they could just all
could
gather.
find each other.
They could find each other without having to displace my poor friend Katie every single time they had a meetup.
Absolutely.
And most of those guys are living in their parents' basements already. So it's good that they should find each other.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I would love to introduce like an operative into that situation to just convince all those guys that they should sleep with each other.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
Y'all are right here.
right?
Yes.
Get like a handsome bi guy in there to convince them that they don't have to hurt women.
Don't subject whatever you guys are doing onto women.
Yeah. You're all horny.
You're all horny.
Yeah.
Fuck each other. Well, that's actually, I think, what a lot of like crazy 4chan right-wing kind of weirdos think is that they're like, they're forced feminizing us guys. They want, and I'm like, honestly, it's best case scenario. Because then, just couple of you guys
Right.
just.
Because the thing is you are actually kind of feminine, and that's okay.
That's
Like
A-okay.
that, you're actually nervous, and you don't really want to do this. That's why you have to be trained to do it, because it's not a part of who you are. You need to accept that part of you that is actually scared of women and address that part.
Also,
Right.
you inside your butt, you can really blast off.
Yeah, man, you can come like a psycho.
You can absolutely die from coming through your butt.
All of our greatest dreams.
And that's a good roommate rebrand. Right?
Yeah.
Is that there's a button in there. Yeah.
Well, it's on the app.
It's on the app. Yeah. Willing to fuck my roommates.
Yeah. Willing to get fingered to ejaculation.
Yes. Yeah. Like how far along on the path of jerk off instruction to forced feminization are you that you'll eventually be willing to fuck me? There's a pipeline.
We can do that's the pro accounts. Is
Yeah.
that for the
You have to pay more. Yeah.
I just tried to drink my Topo Chico and got it nowhere near my mouth.
I saw it went down your chin like a water feature.
See, I'm a big carbonated water fan.
Yeah.
A stan, even if you will.
Sure.
My wife sees me the amount of like LaCroix that I buy, and she's like, the amount of waste. Like that's me being a bad roommate. She's like, I now have a separate little baby fridge that I exclusively put all my LaCroix in because I was taking up so much real estate.
Yeah.
Fridge real estate with roommates.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
When you living with 7, did you have one fridge?
So there was a back house, but that only was for 2 people.
Okay.
So the remainder of our fridge was always fucking bursting. It was like, it made me anxious anytime I went in there because I was like, the amount of like finagling and stuff that I had to do.
And you have one little pocket and you're like, I don't have crisper space.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
These vegetables are fucking done for this world. Like they're gone.
yeah.
Logan
has the crisper.
Yeah, and he's fucking filled with vegetables. He looks so healthy over there.
He's absolutely killing it.
Just glowing. His skin's glowing.
Yeah.
Prick.
But there was a moment I had multiple times of like, I had a roommate where there were 3 of us living in a house in Chicago, and me and my roommate Tom, we would take up an appropriate amount of fridge space, and we had our little cabinets. We had a good cabinet storage space. So, but we started to realize our 3rd roommate, we're like, he has no food.
Huh.
He doesn't, and we're like, oh, he never goes grocery shopping.
Right.
And we're like, what is he eating? And like, we started to like study him like Jane Goodall studied the bonobos. And we're like, what is he eating? And we started to realize like every single meal, and this was after like a year of living with him, we realized every single meal was 7-Eleven hot dogs.
You're lying.
You don't mean breakfast. Promise me he wasn't eating.
Oh, he was exclusively eating 7-Eleven hot dogs or rollers or whatever, like the taquitos.
But a hot dog of some form.
Something from the hot rollers from the 7-Eleven at the end of Newport Ave.
Yeah.
No way.
How was his health?
Not good.
Yeah.
And we started, it put a lot of things together where we like had to like have like a friend intervention where we went, we're going to take you to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like we're going to, we learned had a lot of anxiety when it came to like meal prep and like thinking ahead and like having, then he did the classic overcorrection where you buy way too many groceries and then you can't even eat half that. And it's all just rotting in our...
And then you're like, why would I ever go grocery shopping again? Yeah.
And so I'm like, I kind of learned from him a little bit in that way where I'm like, okay, you do have to like accept that this is going to be a thing that you just have to think about every week or 5 days or however often you go.
And this is why in America we don't have community really. So this is the thing, like you'll be receiving a roommate who has not had, and me too, I was this person really until Ashley and I got married.
You were a hot dog guy?
Well, not exactly, no, but there was a bunch of shit where because when I lived by myself, I just wouldn't do dishes, so I would eat out all the time. And so it wasn't like, it was no longer filthy or disgusting, but it was like, so when I moved in with Ashley, I had to learn, into the house with 7 people, I had to learn how to be a better roommate. So there's like a certain level of training that has to happen. Often women have to train men, but then there's other experiences where like men can help each other learn how to do this thing.
Yes.
You're receiving a baby. This is a fucking baby in your house.
Shame is a good tool.
Yeah.
Shame is a good tool.
That's how dudes do it.
And I was like, I was more of a leave no trace in common areas kind of guy.
Right.
Where I'm like, I'm going to clean up after myself in the kitchen and in the living room and stuff. But I'm like, my room is a goddamn hurricane.
Right.
But I'm like, you don't got to go in there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's none of your business.
Don't come at me about how I keep my personal space. But I'm like, the sink, I'm going to clean my dish right after, I'm like, I was pretty good about like leave no trace.
Yeah.
Now, anything above the minimum, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Like, like if I see my friend, I've learned just the older you get, like living with my wife who had to train me like a fucking dog in certain ways because she's very like anal clean. Like she does something that drives me insane. Bad roommate. We need a rebrand for this. My wife. I will have a LaCroix. Okay. I'm banging shit. Something that drives me insane and made me want to do real murder. She does this thing where I could be sitting watching a show. I'm watching it, and I have a LaCroix on a coaster beside me. I take a sip of it. If she's walking through the room, she cannot not grab it and see how much is left. Because to her, a sin is to finish a drink and place it down. Like if you finish the drink, you need to be standing up and walking to the recycling bin.
Wow.
You cannot place an empty LaCroix back down. I'm like, I'm going to watch the end of the show and then I will dispose of my LaCroix can. No, she has to grab, as she walks by, she doesn't even think about it. She just grabs it. And
that is tantamount to
I'm going to kill you.
That's like placing 2 fingers in your mouth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That is a violation of your personal space.
She cannot help herself.
Wow.
I've just had to accept she's gonna do, and it's like, and then it's like a personal strike against her if I finished the drink and clanked it back down onto the table beside me before I stood up. Like, it's one thing if I leave it there.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, that's on me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But no. I just haven't gotten up yet from the show I'm watching. I'm going to, the next time I stand up, I promise you, I will dispose of the can. But like, that's the level of anal clean she is.
Yes.
And so I'm like, during my roommate days, I'm like, I wasn't like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I at least was cleaning up messes.
Let me ask you, and I'm not trying to dissolve your marriage, but
yeah.
I have a question.
And I am.
Do you ever catch her slipping on any of that stuff? I feel like if you're that...
When I do, I know that she's like experiencing a mental health hardship.
Yeah.
Like, it's a red flag for me that I'm like, oh,
Totally.
she's like having a bad day.
So you can't be like, ha ha.
But I've ha-ha'd. But I have ha-ha'd in the past, and I realized I need to be the bigger person in this moment and realize the reason why she's not doing that, being crazy cleanly, is because she's going through it.
Yep.
You know?
Interesting.
Like, that's a red flag.
And Ashley has this thing that is like, clutter affects her internal state, her mental
Yes.
state.
Yeah.
My wife too.
You know what I mean? Whereas me, I can overlook some.
Right.
And I think that there's a difference between like what I would call clutter, meaning like placing my empty can down on the table the moment I finished it.
I feel like you're going to become so enraged you're just going to leave the podcast right now.
I'm just boiling over right now. But like that to her would be clutter. Like she would go like, that's clutter. And I'm like,
Interesting.
if it's not fully spotless, that's clutter.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, but then like I'll come back from a trip. Like I'll be like doing stand up on the road, and I'll come back and I'll see that like our room is a hellhole and her clothes are stacked up, and I'm like, oh, she's having bad mental health right now. like you know what I mean? Like I'm gone and she's like, you know, she goes into like the fuck it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah.
She's just pouring milk on the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking care.
Yeah, exactly. There's that like weird meme of the woman in like, it's like a clip from Hoarders, and she's like fully buried into the mess, but she has like a little hammock, and then it's like just like a meme being like, "What happens when my significant other leaves for one day and then they return?"
Well, and this is going to sound like a men's rights
Yeah.
opinion right now,
Oh,
but
here we go.
And you want to lead with that?
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
change quickly. But I do feel like the things that women complain that young men do are evidence of a depressed person. They're like, oh, they don't have a bed frame. You're like, yeah, they're not allowed to cry.
Yeah, they're poor.
It's been 10 years and they haven't wept. So like there's all this deep, unspoken internal shit that usually results in them being really angry about the Falcons losing. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, right.
For sure. To defend women for just a moment.
Yes. They're depressed too.
They're depressed too.
And they have a bed frame.
And they have a bed frame. And also, they're having to deal with men.
Yeah, for sure.
And the danger
Yes.
of men
Yes.
and the, immaturity of men.
Yes.
Oh,
So-
no, it's worse.
Way worse.
Yeah.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I just think that we don't allow men to openly cry.
That's yes.
No, for sure.
allows for all this fucking weird, awful shit to happen.
Yeah.
Which is-
It shows itself in other ways.
Right,
You
they
go,
don't give.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, they don't care about cleanliness.
But
They're
it's also-
fucking clinically depressed, but no one is aware of it.
See, my wife is more like, no, it's because we socialize and we like culturally we raise men to like rely on their mom to do these things
Sure.
and to do their laundry and like things like that.
Sure.
And I'm like, no, I'm just like a little bit of a turd. I had to do all this stuff. I just am I know we're already off of fridges, but I had one last weird fridge thought pop into my head,
Sure.
which is when I lived in a house with 5 guys, we had our little cubby holes and like stuff was like broken in the fridge, like the latches and the doors and the stuff in like the door was coming apart and all this weirdness. And my wife, who I was dating, who wasn't my wife at the time, but she came over and like looked at our fridge and she goes, this was right when the show Stranger Things had debuted on Netflix. And she's like, I just started following that guy, Steve, on Stranger Things. Joe Keery, actor Joe Keery. And I said, oh, cool. And she goes, your fridge. I followed him on Instagram and I just like looked at his pictures. He lived in Chicago and he has a picture of the apartment he lived in and his fridge was broken in the same way yours is. And I was like, this is weird. We went on and we realized he lived in the apartment I lived in right before I did.
Dude.
Many generations of men not fixing the fridge.
Yeah, that's more like on the landlord of just like they're gonna not fix this for anyone ever.
That's what, dude. Talk about Stranger Things. But that's fucking crazy.
But the chance of her connecting, whoa, your fridge is broken in a very specific way that this other guy who I just randomly saw on the internet documented.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you, and then
She has a beautiful mind.
if there's something out of place and like that, like she
like,
has recall like that.
That's amazing.
She was able to and then there's like a picture of him in front of the apartment and we're like, he lived in our apartment.
Yeah,
crazy.
dude.
Very weird.
Wow.
Okay, I really like the app.
Yes.
I wanna
the app
return
is
to the
That's
app
a
for
good
second.
rebrand.
Yeah.
I think the app is a good rebrand. Should it be called Roomy, like ROOMI or something?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
they
I
all have
love
weird
that.
names like that.
Or just an I. Or R-U-M-I.
Are you?
like the
poet.
Yeah, the Islamic
worst.
poet.
But I feel like you could do the thing where you match, right? So you see like, do you are you trying to set up an EDM band?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you only sleep Dracula
Which is a whole
hours?
set. There's an EDM version of Roomy that is
Sure.
for the EDM set.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a whole set.
That gets
Kind of
really-
like a grinder.
Yes.
There's a whole different app just for the EDM folks. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a
Right.
lot more desperate. They're 100 feet away at all times.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly like Grindr.
And you have people that are like, I want a new girl. I want to try a new girl type experience. You have people that are like, I don't want to fuck you under any circumstances.
Yeah. Oh, wow, yeah.
You can have all those
Yes.
things. And then I feel like once you've matched, I feel like you should have a bunch of the shit, like a bunch of contracts already set up of like, how much fridge space do you tend to take up?
Yes.
Let's just because I feel like what happens sometimes in roommate situations, which is not great, is that everyone else has deficits and some people have positives. Like
Yes.
one person has the great room and maybe they're paying a little bit more, but everyone else is living in squalor, or people are taking up too much. I feel like you just need to have this sort of like, yes, you get more fridge space, but you get the haunted bathroom. Yes, you get more.
There's some pros and cons
Yes.
of like, and then on top of that too, there's like, I think an important slider is like, when do you start work? Because I know
Oh, yeah.
I have like horror stories of like a group of 5 guys all working 9 to 5s and us all needing to shower.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, last minute.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the latest you possibly can. And just having to be like, I'm going to smell like beer today. Like, I'm just not going to be able to shower and
Yeah.
I'm going to work. And I
Yeah.
have to look at someone in the eye and be visibly dirty.
How is it that our home smells like we were unhoused? How does
Oh,
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Oh, yeah. There's you start to learn other people, like how sheltered or how much your friends got away with. Like when I lived with friends.
Right.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Like you
Mistake.
said.
Although
I
I
think-
will say I wouldn't be here if it weren't for living with friends. But again, I think I'm the one that benefited from this.
Right,
But
you were the bad roommate we
Yeah,
were
But
because
you
they put up
received
with
some
the-
shame.
Yes, I experienced shame, but also like Pat Babbitt, brilliant comic, lived with. He was the one who was like, "Come to LA, you can stay in my living room." I was like, "Amazing," and I again didn't have $100 a month, and he would still wake me up with what he called Babby's Scrambies, which were scrambled eggs and like hash browns and vegetables.
That's a good friend.
I mean, what a beautiful, kind thing to do,
I feel like you weren't a roommate at that point. You were a dependent.
Yeah,
You
that's
were,
true.
like you were
a squatter.
Yeah, you were having a mental health crisis as well. And you
I
were
was an
being
adopted.
cared for.
Yeah, I was an orphan who they were allowing to
Yes.
fucking eat their food. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So anyway, that's my.
You were Annie.
So that'll be another part of rebrand. Another part of the app will be like, will you accept a young person who needs your help?
Yes.
You can say no. Most people say no.
Yeah, right.
It is there's a lot of little fun boxes to check within the app of like, do you have IBS?
Yeah.
Right.
Because I shared a bathroom with a guy who had IBS, and
Yep.
you learn. And I was very sympathetic to those needs, but there's times where you're like, oh boy, I need to give it a couple minutes to air out.
Yeah.
Like he really blew that thing up,
Yeah.
and he can't help it
No,
Right,
that's not
right.
a bathroom anymore.
Right.
That's
because he's going to be using the bathroom 11 times a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where I'm like, okay.
And think about, like, once you've agreed, like, yeah, we're not fucking each other, then it's off the table. There's so many people that go in, I think, to roommate situations. They're like, I don't know, maybe we're fucking. It's like, no. Let's get this clear on the app.
Yes.
Fucking your roommate.
I mean,
The worst
possible choice you can make.
Horrible
The
idea.
worst possible idea you can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
without a doubt. But people
Without
do
a
it.
doubt. Oh, they do it.
Yeah,
Have
it's
either of you
also
ever done it?
no.
Wait, let me double check. Let me go through the Rolodex. No, I didn't do it.
In my the last 2 years of college, I lived with a girl who I think upon later reflection was probably into me. And I didn't. Nothing ever happened. But having to just hear your roommates fucking, like having really thin walls where you're just hearing essentially audio porn all the time. And like I remember one time coming home and in the dead of winter and seeing our front door just wide open, and I went, "Oh great, we've been robbed! Like this is great." And you're like, "No, my roommate is just an alcoholic who opened the door and just crashed immediately on the nearest couch, and there was a snowdrift in our house." And I'm like, "Oh no!" Like having to deal with other people's like episodes. But when you have none of the tools to deal with it.
Yes.
Oh,
Like, I'm
absolutely.
20.
That's a bad roommate if they're letting nature into the home.
Yeah, it's not giving you a scramby.
If there's varmints and fucking loose
Yeah.
birds and stuff, yeah, that's
At
bad.
minimum, an apartment is meant to keep out the outdoors. Yeah. But if that house was full of alcoholics, they'd have a great time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we had a great time. Most of it only took one person going over.
Yes,
Right.
dude, it's so fun. The night we did Ecstasy still lives in my mind as a wonderful adventure.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this place, we had a jacuzzi, all right, with like Coke mirrors all around it. It was some weird leftover 70s
Wait,
installation
inside
thing.
the apartment?
Inside this pretty big apartment in Wicker Park. We all did Ecstasy one night, us and a girl I was with at the time and her friend. And 2 hours into the Ecstasy experience, we were like, we have a jacuzzi. We'd never used it before, so we went over there and we tried to like clean it out and stuff. And then I remember my friend
Again, indoor jacuzzi?
indoor jacuzzi. I mean, it was a
Insane.
big,
Insane.
it was a
Insane.
big weird pink bath with jacuzzi jets.
So
And
where was it in the house?
it
Where
was
was it in
okay.
the
So
house?
Bathroom.
it was a weird setup. It was a really, really large bathroom with
Okay.
like a closet that had like the toilet in it, which we also had everyone sign because we were 22 years old. So it was just filled with like graffiti and silly, you know, I farted here or whatever stuff.
Good stuff.
Hilarious.
Good
Classic.
gag.
Yeah.
I can see your wiener.
Yeah. So I remember high as fuck on ecstasy, walking around the tub trying to clean it, and our friend Mark, we just happened to have a fake construction hat that he had put on as like a silly gag. He slipped and fell into the jacuzzi and hit his head in a way that would have caused a terrible concussion, but he was wearing the silly hat. And so we were just sitting there staring at him all scared, and then we're like, ecstasy's the best, man.
Roommates.
Roommates.
There's another rebrand element of roommates too. It's like we're telling stories of yore, you know?
Yeah.
Current day, like I like my wife and I were like just going over the old finances. And we have 2 bedrooms, and then we're like, is there a scenario
Right.
where we open our doors up to a roommate and that not be sad? And the answer is no. The answer is no.
It is a loss that requires grieving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there needs to be like a rebrand, just the state of the world and the way things kind of going, where it's like, do we need to be okay with that maybe having to happen?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, man. Shit is unsustainable, and we're all starting to get a real look at it.
Yep, pretty cool.
Well, to your point earlier, you know, part of the problem with the States is that we don't really have a community. So there is a world in which new roommate in a situation where maybe you've never wanted a roommate, option for a little bit of community in your life.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely
You know?
right.
I mean, have you had scenarios with a roommate where it went really well and there was really no friction?
I'm telling you, I've really only lived with friends.
So it's been good mostly.
And I've loved it. And there's been like hard, and again, dude, one time at this house in Chicago, this is just I was fucking drinking whiskey in my bed, and I think I shut the window too hard, and it was one of these old windows, and the glass shattered on me and my girlfriend at the time. So then that thing just got taped and boarded up for 6 months before the landlord handled it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So there's that. There is the stuff that is terrible and was probably frustrating for my roommates.
Yes.
But goddamn, we loved each other and had so much fun.
Yes.
I will say that my first roommate out of college was a woman that was like a couple decades older than me,
Right.
had an awesome pit bull, and it was kind of her house, and I was just living in it, and it was great.
You had an elder. That's what a community needs. Someone who
Yeah.
like dictates the vibe and sort of the rules, if there are any, stuff
If
like
you
that.
had like a sassy older lady
Yeah.
living in your spare room,
Yes.
you know?
And that was kind of the scenario that I had, where I was a young guy moving to Chicago with a guy who had lived in like, I was moving into his fully furnished house. And I was the problem.
Yeah.
In that scenario where I'm like, and even in that moment, I was like, I'm doing my best. We're at different phases of life.
Right.
And I knew that I was wearing on him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something in that moment that I could help.
Yeah. For
You
sure.
know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're trying to
it was
learn.
my poverty that was annoying rather than like me as a guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right, right.
You know?
Totally. And you're like learning comedy and trying to
Yes.
sustain, like have a day job and all that other shit. It doesn't leave a whole lot of room sometimes.
But
Right.
I think we do need to rebrand roommate as it. There's too many horror stories where we got to have the rebrand of the like have a nice like have a guiding light of it. Like maybe you're in this person's mind, like this was someone who was older and had a younger roommate, which if you described it to her in the moment, she probably wasn't like, can't wait.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
but it ended up working out.
Yeah,
At
we ended
least-
up becoming pals.
Totally.
Yeah.
And she I bet she saw a little bit of herself in you or something and was like happy to, a little bit of like a mentor situation, maybe.
She was sad when I left.
Yeah.
And I think that's the rebrand we need. is
Yep.
that it doesn't have to be a nightmare. The app can help the nightmares find each other, and then it's a good time.
That's
Right,
what
and then
it
they're
is.
just having fun.
Allow the self-destructive party boys to just do it, and like the you're not getting your deposit back. The place is gonna be fucking destroyed.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
And
Wiped
you're not
off the
even
map.
gonna argue for it.
No, no.
Like, not only is it gone, you're not even, it's already pump and dumped from your brain that you even had to pay an extra month's
Yes.
rent because of how much damage you
There's a full hole in the wall. You know what I mean? That goes outside, Warner Brothers style.
Our college home was nicer than most of the college apartments that were in the surrounding area. So it was like, it had been renovated more recently than a lot of the shitholes around us. Cut to 2 years after us living there, we destroyed it. There was like a little door frame that was in between the living room and the kitchen. We, for some reason, had a wheelchair in the house that so many people did so many wheelchair bits that the wheelchair could only fit through that door from the door frame from the kitchen to the living room. Like, there was no room for error. Like, you
Right.
had to and of course, the arms of the wheelchair, you could see them destroyed into the door frame.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
of the amount of wheelchair bits
They
people
cut the
had
shape
done.
of the
Right.
wheelchair into the frame. Yeah.
Right.
Like kind of the cartoon of a guy jumped through the wall
the
and then
Kool-Aid
you
Man.
see,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you see the outline. That was the wheelchair outline through the door frame, and we knew that we weren't getting that deposit
Dude,
back.
and I love that shit. We discovered about 6 months into living with our Frandy that our friend Andy, I'll call him Frandy now,
Frandy.
was a sweet, beautiful Frandy, was a pretty bad pyromaniac. But
Yeah.
it was hilarious because what he would do is we'd be hammered at a party and he would have the lighter fluid and just do like a nice little design on the wall and go, light it on fire and it'd look cool and then would go out. It was in a way a kind of an art form. And we didn't give a shit. And we would be like, outside they have those like stone stairs, he would do the way, just like pour the lighter fluid down. And in this beautiful way, fire would walk down the stairs.
Here's what it is. Not only do we need the connection between the destructive roommates here, but we also need those people need to be connected with a landlord that's trying to get insurance money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
that's part of the a part of the app.
I think that should be part of the app.
Yes, instead of illegally committing insurance fraud.
Yes.
You get a bunch of crazy boys
You
to come in
you
and
get
burn your shit
three
down.
Destroy your shit.
aspiring comedians
Yes.
to destroy your home beyond
Absolutely
Right.
wreck your house.
Yeah.
And then if you want like basically free interior design,
Yeah.
you get like 3 Gen Z women who
That's
are just
right.
gonna make it really pretty because they
Yes.
like to live in a pretty place.
Totally.
Yes.
And if you're an older empty nester, you get a responsible college student to come in. They will respectfully develop a relationship with you that will make your heart feel full. There's a place called Hell Rose. This is interesting because skateboarders have a thing called skate houses. They're like fucking comedian houses, right? Or like any burgeoning artist has to have a place with no rent and there's 50 people living there.
Right.
This place called Hell Rose was that situation where the landlord was like, I'm tearing this place down in a year.
So go nuts.
Do whatever you want. The amount of grilling they did inside of their place is hilarious.
Inside grilling is funny because why? Go outside.
There's so much footage of them with sledgehammers just like fucking taking down walls and skating in there.
Amazing.
That's rad.
Yeah.
We just need to connect. This is the thing. You need the right key for the right lock. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It just needs to fit.
You made a quick mention earlier about like your friend living in like a hellhole apartment. Like,
Oh, yes.
I need so little to be happy in terms of like, at least I did.
Yeah.
I think as a fully formed adult, I need my central AC and like things.
Right.
But it's
Right.
like, God, I lived in some hellhole apartments, but there were always a friend who had a worse apartment that was like the skate house, kind of like, but it was like band houses. Like I was friends with a lot of guys who were in bands and their whole band would live in that house. And it was like, this is like, even in that moment when I was like living in squalor, they were really living in squalor. They were
Right.
like Jackass, like Bam Margera turning his stairs into like a ski flume or whatever.
Right.
I was like, there's always someone whose apartment was even bigger a piece of shit than yours.
Yep. Like we didn't think about what we were going to do after we destroyed the toilet. But we
Yeah.
went and destroyed the toilet.
Like, if you pee, you have to get it right into the pipe.
It's kind of a game, but don't breathe in there if you can help it.
Do you know that there's a bar in like Silver Lake, Los Feliz called the 4100 Bar? Have you ever heard of this bar? It's fairly popular now, but before the pandemic, like the pandemic was the best thing that ever happened to them because their parking lot became like the outdoor of the bar. Like they
Oh,
just
I see.
made it so that that's not a parking lot anymore.
Right.
That's just like outside. You know, but the inside of the bar was like the men's room was like a true blight upon humanity.
Right.
Where one of the 2 urinals literally was the urinal was fully destroyed and it was just a pipe. And so like you could pee just directly into an
You could.
open pipe.
You could.
People did it or people tried. But it was just like there was one urinal and the one against the wall was not there anymore, but there was a pipe and if you needed to go, you could try to pee directly into the tube.
They should change the name of that bar to the Piss on the Ground Bar. Like you got to warn people.
Oh, there was a house in college, some dudes that I was friends with who were like punkers, like
Yeah.
real punk rock dudes, and it was called the Morgue because it was literally a morgue that they turned into an apartment.
Whoa.
It was an old like back house, like morgue, like literally like where they kept the
Damn.
bodies. And of course these guys are like freaking punked out. And they had a drop tile ceiling that one of the tiles was busted out and they just were throwing like they would have punk shows at the morgue.
Yep.
And when you were done with your beer, you would just
Throw it.
throw it into the drop tile ceiling. And then eventually the ceiling starts to sag. And you're like, oh no. And it like drip. And it's like, it started to smell like unacceptable. And you're just like, but you're like,
God.
there's always someone whose house is shittier and worse than yours. And those guys, we need the sliding scales so that they can find each other. Happy as pigs and shit.
There needs another aspect of Ruby, the app, which is for haunted houses.
Oh yeah.
Because there are
for the
people.
goth kid. Honey, Minutes to Goth.
Yeah.
We always end up talking about goth shit. on
Yeah,
this
for the
podcast, by
goth
way.
kids,
For the kids that would live at the morgue.
just be like, oh yeah, whoa, there's a Victorian child ghost that lives here. That's my
Sign me
dream
up,
come
baby.
true.
Yeah, right.
And they have a profile, the child ghost. So it's like, are you cool with me waking you up? When you close your eyes, you only see a fountain of blood.
It says job entrepreneur.
Yeah. There's,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a picture of like their neck where the strangulation scars are from the from
They're giving the deuces.
from the murder. Yeah.
I don't know if he might be friends with the ghost that I used to live with.
One thing I'll say too about like, you know, in this current economy, the possibility of needing a roommate, I wonder if there's like, what is the opportunity? Like, is there something that like you feel like the house could use that maybe another person could provide in some way?
Whoa.
Ooh.
You know, whether it's a little bit of prankster energy or like a little, you know, or maybe someone to help with like the animals or.
See, I would love someone else to be like a lightning rod of like, then I could be a united front with my wife against that. And I'm like,
A third
Brendan
to take
is
the ire.
annoying. Brendan drank his whole LaCroix and didn't immediately dispose of it.
What a pig.
What a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, it could sand the hard edges of the marriage when you have a common enemy. That's a very good point.
I think there's truth to that. I think there is truth
Yeah,
to
a lot of relationships can thrive on being like, man, this other thing.
Oh, everyone loves a common enemy.
Yeah.
Oh my
Kind
God.
of like I think it's underrated that it really does help to have one thing that you guys are like. God.
Oh, this fucking guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Fucking guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially like like the dawning of like everyone working remote. Like my wife works from home, and I'm like, I'd love to not hear every call she takes all the time, but like if there's a bad one, I can be like, Brendan was a dick to you on that call. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like,
You would also possibly have an ally in hypothetical Brendan,
oh yeah.
where you guys could have a
we would
knowing
get
look.
A guy who, I would get to read his manifesto before he lives with me.
That's right. Through me, right? Yeah.
He's pretty deranged in a way that I feel like I could steer.
That's so good. What if there's somebody who they've got their manifesto written, they're like 2 months from moving to the woods, but there's also part of them that wonders if they could be talked out of it into a normal life. And maybe they live with like a cult reprogrammer guy or like a psychiatrist or something.
I mean, you want to believe that can happen.
Yeah.
Like we live in a time where like that's happening in real time.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And we have to find a way to make it so that they aren't getting to.
Yep. And
the
look, is there a
murder
possibility
zones.
that the manifesto guy is going to convince the psychiatrist to turn into the guy who's going to bomb the federal building? Of course.
Yes.
That's the
and
risk you
maybe
run.
he wins.
Yeah.
If
And who
it
am
was
I
well
to say
written.
which one is right or whatever?
The
you know?
amount of bombings that we've mentioned in this episode about roommates is not what I was anticipating. I gotta say.
It got dark because that's how bad roommates need a rebrand. There's only pipe bombings.
And Ashley
scenario.
keeps trying to bring it back to her like very lovely experience with this kindly old woman with a dog, and then we're like, yeah, but what if you committed a felony?
Yeah, you never looked in her closet and saw that she had a shrine to you. Made of your hair.
This happens a lot, but I think this might be the one that I see clearly is a fucking incredible idea.
The Roomie app.
The app is unbelievable.
Oh, the app's
Now,
great.
should there be a Uber style post roommate rating system where it's like, I lived with this guy and the profile is mostly accurate,
Right.
Yes.
but he poops a lot. Or like there's, you get to rate either the landlord after the fact and
Yeah.
they rate you.
Yo, I
or-
love
I love
definitely
that.
landlord rating for
I love
sure.
that.
But I don't know that I want to give landlords any more agency. Because I don't
That's
know
true.
if I want to give the landlords a voice. 'Cause
No,
I'm
they
gonna-
don't get to rate the roomies. The roomies.
Yeah, it's roomies rating roomies.
Yeah,
And then
and-
roomies rating landlords.
Have you had some fun landlords in the past?
The last place that we lived, the guy, it was totally fine actually for the most part. And then when he would come over to fix something, he would just talk about the fact that he had like 96 cameras at his house.
Yeah.
Don't love that.
Yeah.
Because those come in 100 packs.
I know, I was like, ooh.
You open the fridge and there's clearly like a VHS camera in there. We just haven't noticed it before. It's so huge. You're like, oh, fuck.
Do you ever have a moment where you're in like a really bad hotel room and you're like, someone's taking a video of
Oh,
my
for
wiener?
sure.
Yep.
I'm like,
Like,
they're selling this. There's a
Yeah.
bathroom camera somewhere.
Yeah,
they're
they're-
selling this shit somewhere.
They're watching me piss. And you know what?
Yeah.
God bless them.
I'm like,
You see the blinking red light? That's obviously a high 8.
he's taking audio too.
Yeah, it's clearly a boom mic.
He's just there. Yeah, he's just in the.
Yeah.
He's just in the vents.
Well, and this dude he was so into technology that he was obviously on amphetamines. You can tell this type of dude that's like too into the Nest thing, that
Yeah.
you could change every single aspect of the yeah, totally.
Yeah, he had it all set up all over his house.
But sweet guy, honestly.
Yeah, he was really fine. Yeah.
The year that I got SNL and had to leave, I told my landlord at the time, because I didn't think I was going to be able to find Jameson.
Little did you know Jameson was just waiting.
He was longboarding over there. He heard his name from miles
He
away.
was just tripping nuts. He was experiencing ego death
Yeah.
in a field.
Yeah, you called him, but he saw it as like Gaia reaching her hand through a tree.
Yeah, exactly. Ripping his id from his hand. But I basically let this landlord know that I'm like, I have to break. I just signed a lease like for a year. I basically was like 3 months into a year lease.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna need to break it. Like I told him, I was like, I got cast on Saturday Night Live and I have to leave the city now.
Yeah, right.
And the guy was like giving me a fucking hard time. Was
Really?
like, you're gonna have to pay that out. Like he was being a dick. And I went, I don't think you understand. I got a weird. I'm going to be acting on Saturday Night Live in 3 weeks.
Yes,
like
this is
I'm-
0.0000% chance of happening to any
Yes.
human being alive.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm like, it really is a lottery hit for me that I'm like, you're really gonna screw me over like this. And he goes, if you can't find a subleaser, like I don't know what else I can do. And then he goes, my son is a really big fan of SNL.
Oh, no.
Is there any chance that maybe I could get tickets? And what I didn't know at the time is that when you're a new featured cast member, you only get 2 tickets to the show every other week. Whoa! So like,
So you're like,
that's
sorry,
how
Mom and
hard
Dad.
it is. Straight up, I had to I only got tickets half of the year.
That's rough because there have to be so many friends that are excited to go see you.
100%.
Yeah.
I have an endless list of people I'd much rather give 2 tickets to.
Landlord and his weird son.
And I gave Landlord and Weird Son the first tickets. and the worst part was I found a subleaser.
Oh.
And so
You're still on the hook
Right,
for
you
the
found
ticket?
Jameson.
And so I'm like, I shouldn't even have to give to this day I'm still mad at that landlord.
Yeah, man.
for,
Yeah.
That's
extorting
why,
me like that.
honestly, the landlord rating thing is so important. It should be, yes, a part of Roomie, but also its own separate app.
Right.
I also feel the same way with the landlord rating system as I do with any other, whether it's Yelp, whether it's Uber, whether it's any sort of 1 to 5 star rating system. I think is stupid. It's either good or bad. Give me thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
I think saying 4-star ride to the airport. It's like,
Yeah.
no. Either they said a slur in the car, thumbs down, either
Right.
1 or 5.
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Give me an average.
Say how many people said good versus bad. Yeah.
But I think it's stupid to be able to give someone a 3 out of 5.
For sure. You're not
No.
critiquing a novel
Good
or
or
a
bad.
fucking
Yeah.
art
Yes.
film.
I think the same about landlords, where it's it's either kill or
Yeah.
Spare for now.
or they're okay, or spare for now, or let live.
Right.
But let live begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, let abuse someone else. They weren't so mad, I guess, at the end, because I was bad too.
In my opinion, that landlord, and I love to psychoanalyze and project things onto people I'll never meet. It's one of my favorite things. I think that guy let his dreams die, and so he wasn't going to help you out in your dreams.
There's a very good chance of that, and I also it was a weird guy, and I'm like, it sucks when you did sign a legal document or whatever that says you're gonna pay this much money over a year, and you really have no leverage.
Yeah.
Right.
And so in the moment, I'm just like, God damn it, I'm gonna have to pay this guy out.
Yep.
A full lease.
Yep.
I'm so sorry that what should have been reserved for 2 of your loved ones was for your debut of SNL was this fucking asshole and his son. That's so tragic.
The good news is that my first episode there on the show, I was fully blanked. So if I had my parents or whatever come that week,
They wouldn't have seen
they
it.
literally wouldn't have seen me in any sketch. So the first week I was there, I was in a sketch that got cut at dress rehearsal. And so I was only in the good nights where they
good.
go out and wave at the end.
Yeah,
Right,
sure.
Which is
right.
that's worst case scenario. That means you're not in the show. I was not in a sketch the first week.
Yeah.
But that was the week that guy got to go, and I'm like, suck it. Or at least my family didn't come
To not see you
to not
perform.
see me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Which is more just of a sad thing for me. Rather than a win over my landlord.
Yeah, right. He's got to go to SNL.
You're like, at
I
least
guess.
you failed twice.
But do you think that the landlords would read on the app people talking about them and be like, I thought that guy liked me.
Yeah, maybe. And
Maybe.
it might help them, because here's the thing. We stand around and talk shit, and we never confront people with the reality of what the situation made us feel like.
Right. So
You
maybe
know.
those guys were like, I did great.
Yeah.
I feel like there's also a certain amount of like mental and emotional dissonance you have to have as a landlord anyway
Yeah, to be able to do that.
to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So maybe it would make them finally come to Jesus a little bit. That, yeah, there are people that you're impacting with your actions,
Yeah.
as it turns out. And every time you raise the rent, you're raising the rent on a person,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. A family.
a family.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then I put myself, I'm like, someday I want to become a psycho landlord. No.
I have a friend who has a back house, and he's experiencing that, of like what having a difficult tenant is.
Sure.
That's the same scenario of like being the older woman with a cute pit bull and having someone like you or I move in.
Yes.
Who it's not good.
Yep.
Where they're like, you know, like how much grace do you give a person? It's one thing if they're a friend.
Yeah.
Like, because I definitely like had to have moments with a friend where you realize like, oh, we had like a big party and we had like a kegger in Chicago and had way too many people over, and the cleanup the next day was like apocalyptic. Your feet are sticking to the ground.
yeah.
And we were like, two of the three roommates, me and my roommate Tom, we're going to town. We're in full clean mode.
Uh-huh.
And third roommate is not really picking up the obvious signal that we are cleaning up our destroyed house right now.
Yeah.
Right.
You got rubber gloves on and that like bandana around your head. Yeah.
We are Rosie the Riveter, like in full like garb. Yeah, we're cleaning.
Yeah.
And he's like, and we're like, we basically had to be like, hey man, you should clean this room. This will be a room that you clean. And he goes, oh yeah, oh for sure. Oh, okay, I'll do that I'll do that now. We're like, great, you should. And then like we returned to see like, we were like having to be like, pick up all of the cans and put like first pick up the cans.
Uh-huh.
And then mop this room. And like seeing him mopping a room.
Oh no.
We came back in, and again this is hot dog guy.
He's got the mop.
Oh, of
This is
course
hot
it
dog
is.
guy.
The
He's got
Laura
the mop
hot dog
upside
guy.
down. He's just touching the wooden part to the floor.
Worse than that. We're watching him again with like Jane Goodall studying the bonobos in the wild. Like we're just like, what is he doing? What does he think mopping is? And he is
He's trying to eat it.
he's pouring soap water onto the ground, and then he used to work at the Apple store. He wasn't using the mop. He was would take one of the blue Apple store shirts and he would put it around his feet, and he would kind of scooch the water kind of squeegee style with an Apple store shirt around each foot. And we're like, and we started to realize, we're like, oh, like he's never in his life been asked to clean.
Right.
And so it's like, we're mad at him in this moment because he's an oaf
Yeah.
Right.
and a psycho.
Yeah.
But we're like, but he literally
Has no
doesn't
idea.
know how to clean.
It's wild he didn't think the mop was part of it, though.
He saw us doing it, and like, you know, you squinch out the mop, and you know, that was too much for him. So he knew was,
short circuited.
Yeah, he short circuited and just pour soap water on the ground, and then kind of like
Shimmy it around.
shimmy it around with shirts on your feet. We were watching him do this from like down the hallway, and we were like, he's not serious. Like we were like, because he's a goofball. He's a very, very funny guy that we're like, he's doing a bit.
Yeah.
And we're like, he's not doing a bit.
No, he thinks this is how you
trying
do it.
Dead
as hard
serious.
as he can.
He's really trying. He thinks he's cleaning right now.
It's like somebody who'd heard of a cell phone before and you hand it to him and you're like, figure it out.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
right.
is Dickensian street orphan ghost. Like you're explaining what a PS4 is. Yeah, it's nothing like the first three versions.
Yeah.
But in that moment, we're like, he doesn't know how to mop. Like the concept of mopping, he simply. It was probably weaponized incompetence. Of
Sure,
like,
sure.
Like, I don't know how. And so,
right.
I
like,
used a shirt.
yeah. But like he was trying in that moment.
He was really trying.
He was trying to clean, and that's the way he thought it was gonna get done.
Yeah,
we
man.
had to, and we decided to not like
Intervene.
Bonnie
Or-
and Clyde him, and
Yeah,
that,
right,
we
right.
decided to not light him up with Tommy guns in that moment. And we decided to like come start to show him in the adjacent room
Right.
what mopping looked like.
Yeah. You taught a man to fish that day.
Did he pick it up after that?
He did pick it up. He at least was using the mop to shuffle around he didn't understand that pouring a bunch of water on the ground
Right.
in a 100-year-old house in Wrigleyville where it's absolutely seeping through the wood floor.
Right.
Yeah, we were basically, you don't want to just pour water out onto the wood slat.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right. This house is barely standing as
it's
it is.
barely standing. But again, we would have swiped right on our app because we mostly were on the same page.
Right.
Nice.
But there were moments where he was just more insane than we were.
And here's the other thing. If you guys had swiped right on this and you also found a man who needed to have his home destroyed for insurance reasons, then pour all the
Dunzo.
water you want.
Dunzo. Well, would you have given him a thumbs up or thumbs down on the app? That's where the 3.5 comes in. I bet.
Okay, well, yeah, see? Because it's a human. We need to start the critiques.
You're right.
we need addendums.
I think if that was the worst that it would have been a thumbs up overall. There were other things. Overall, it was like, I think the thumbs up or thumbs down would be like, would you live with this person again?
And it would be a no.
the answer would be no.
Right.
My other roommate, thumbs up.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And I had to kind of suss out over the years whether or not I got a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
And I realized I got a thumbs up because I was competent compared to that roommate and Jameson.
Yep.
Where it's like, and I'm like, compared to those two, I was a great roommate.
Oh my
And-
God, Jameson and hot dog and 7-Eleven
Hot
hot
Dog
dog man.
Boy.
Put them
Oh,
together.
dude.
Oh, match made in heaven, baby.
Yeah,
Hot
dude.
dog mopping, guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, we have our blind spots, but you're right about having the self-awareness to know, like, oh no,
Yeah.
I'm out of my depth here.
Well, and the other thing is those, like, I was the crazy roommate, but I would also show up a lot. Like, sometimes those people just
You were there.
They come out of the woods when you least expect them, right when you need them. And I just found that out because a friend of mine told me, he was like, yeah, we had to move from Chicago to Kansas City, and at like 6 a.m., you and a bunch of other, like, half-drunk comedians showed up and helped him and his now wife move all their shit.
Yes.
So, like, probably still drunk from the night before, maybe haven't slept. And I kind of half came to, was like, we gotta help my friend BJ. And everybody's like, what? It's an emergency? Okay, fuck it. We're like puking as we walk over there, you know? And when you have two of those guys, I remember like.
Oh, your 20s rock.
Yeah. I almost got killed loading a projection TV up these stairs into the Wicker Park apartment because we were all fucking hungover. We didn't know what we were doing. It's a television that weighs probably 1,200 pounds. And I almost got fucking pinned.
Flattened by it.
Yeah. One of these like kind of neck-breaking stairways. It's not wide enough for human beings,
Right.
really.
Kind of that scene from Home Alone where the tool chest comes down and flattens the guy.
Yes, totally. Or like, it was like the fucking Exorcist stairs, but inside kind of a thing. That was a gnarly one because I remember being up at 6 a.m. James had disappeared, then showed back up. He jumped into Lake Michigan and he'd written a bunch of poetry on his arms in Sharpie.
I mean.
And then,
You guys are a thumbs down.
But then I would do shit like I worked at this movie theater, which will remain nameless, and
AMC.
I stole from there the coolest thing ever, which was these giant film strip pieces that had this beautiful celluloid black and white shot from a silent film that was like magical. They were like 4 feet by 10 feet wide.
Oh, cool.
And so we put those up and they were just so fucking cool. We were the bohemian nightmare. Like we were what trust fund kids are trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad I had that experience, and I'm very glad I am not like that anymore.
Right.
Now, when you guys started living together, was he a little animal or was he good by then? That means
What do
he
you
was
think, honey?
Well, I really had to fucking learn to do the dishes. Like, I really had to learn how to do chores for myself and another person who cares about that.
It's also big when you have a dishwasher or not is a big one too.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like I remember having one and then going back to not having one
Yeah.
in New York and being like, oh no,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
like oh my life's instantly gotten worse.
This would be funny if we now argued until we broke up. They'd be like, thanks, Luke. Because I lived by myself before I met you, and that place was not a shithole. You remember that. It was like...
No, it was dirty, but it was fine.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I mean, you never like cleaned it. You know what I mean? It was a boy apartment.
Yeah, it was a boy apartment, but it wasn't leaving Las Vegas dying about.
No, I wasn't
it
no, this
wasn't
man is having
train spotting.
Yeah.
is having an episode.
So
No.
I had gone from like 10 out of 10 bad to
You had
like
multiple towels.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if you had more than one
Single towel.
Yeah.
Still single towel.
Yeah,
You have single towel, no cooking utensils or implements.
Yep.
Sure.
But remember, remember when
But
that
no stalactites.
No stalactites. No stalactites.
remember that time we had to go to the emergency room in the middle of the night because you had
I had a UTI. That's
you
true.
had
And
a
you took
UTI.
me.
And
That's
Yeah.
right.
who was
Good
like,
times.
we got an emergency.
We gotta go.
Like those people are like good in an emergency.
I've
guys.
kicked into gear. I've
Yeah.
kicked into gear for God knows what.
You know what I mean? So I think I went from like 5 out of 10 there to now I've learned I do a lot of stuff around the house, and it's been a really gratifying opportunity to learn how to do that, to mature in that way, and also we could be even cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like we don't. There are people who are truly like probably your wife. I don't know,
Well,
but
you have a beautiful place.
thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
I think I also I'm not my mom is nuts, but I mostly am just if there are tons of dishes in the sink for weeks on end, I get bummed. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm crazy.
It
in
is
terms of
weird though, as anal as my wife is about so many different things, about having no clutter, having nothing out on any sort of table or any counter or anything like that. It's funny when you find the blind spots that she has. She's really bad about food storage. She will not put something into a Tupperware. She'll cook something and then simply take the pot and put it in without a covering, just in the fridge.
Oh yeah.
And that drives me nuts because I'm having to bend and learn all of her idiosyncrasies with cleaning, but I'm these are things that'll get us sick. And I'm just but eventually you learn what is worth fighting about and what is worth me just going, and I put it in a Tupperware and then
And a little bit the tables have kind of turned because Ashley's so busy, but there are definitely times where you just don't put away the dishes after breakfast or whatever. So then I come around and do it now.
Yeah.
So so excited.
It's revenge.
Yeah, you're paying your penance.
Yeah, truly. And I think it's
for not having the $100 in the closet room.
Absolutely. That's why I believe in karma. It's gonna come back.
But then it's also stuff where it's if this is the penance I must pay to live a blessed life, I think I'm willing. If I have to put away my LaCroix cans the second I finish them, I think, all things considered, that ain't a bad. Maybe that penance ain't so bad.
I think it's great. I mean, it turns out I really like sweeping. I kind of enjoy doing the dishes. I don't like folding laundry,
But I usually do that. So
You know
that's
what I
nice.
mean?
We figured it out.
Yeah.
I'm a laundry boy, and I tend to be a dishes boy too.
yeah. Do you like folding laundry?
I don't mind folding laundry at all. I really don't mind it at all. I like to blast some tunes.
Yep.
I feel like I've also learned that because I'm the laundry guy in the house, I've learned as a roommate who lives with a full-grown woman, I'm man, I go through 5 times as much laundry as her. I'm oh, you're just wearing dirty clothes all the time. I'm you're wearing your leggings? Guess what? They stink. I'm just I'm doing the laundry. You're not throwing anything down, and you are dirty. I'm just really it's just the amount of clothes I'm going through. I shouldn't be going through that many more than you.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
live in a little pig pen. Or
I'm thinking you're wearing stuff more than you think.
Well, the other thing is that it's only 2 people that live here. The amount of dishes and laundry that we go through
It's
is
crazy.
fucking apocalyptic.
It's crazy.
I can't believe. So that's another thing I understand about crazy desperate Mort is he was yeah, we have to do it twice a week. It seems fucking excessive. Although
Yeah.
to be fair, I felt the same way about eating. I was do we get
Oh, I'm with you.
3 times a day seems
times
like a
a day?
lot. If I was going to design the system,
And
3
see, we're
times a
more
day.
we're more we gotta be eating it. We gotta pare it down to 3 times a day. We're doing extras.
7 full course meals.
And I'm also noticing I'm a Peloton bike boy.
Okay.
That's my workout of choice. But I'm drenching my workout clothes. Right?
Right.
And I'm realizing partially I'm working out and maybe she's not. So maybe I'm rationalizing why I have so many more clothes
Yes.
than
Yeah.
I'm going
right,
through more
right,
than
right,
her.
right.
I get sweaty because I'm a nervous pervert.
I'm
and so
the sweatiest man alive.
So
Honey, don't talk about yourself that way.
No, it's
please.
drive a healthy sex drive.
He's a really nice pervert. A really sweet pervert.
Yeah. But yeah, I change shirts a couple times a day. So that's also part of the laundry issue.
I also rationalize it that I leave the house ever. And so I'm like, I do shows at night. So I'm like, I'm making workout clothes dirty.
Yep.
I'm wearing stuff around my house so it gets dirty, and I'm wearing a shirt to go do a show, and then I'm sweating through that on stage.
Yeah, man.
And so I am like, all right, I'm wearing more clothing than she is on a day-to-day basis, but
Yeah.
She's stinky.
you're wearing stuff one more time than you need to. Let's throw that down. And there should be a thing on the app. There should be a thumbs up and a thumbs down, and then there should be like an alert the authorities.
Yo, yes.
there needs to be
direct contact
like,
to know.
oh no.
This person needs to be taken to a facility.
Yeah, something is up.
Right?
Yeah,
Because
totally.
some people are good at hiding that shit, and then you're in close proximity, and you're like, oh, no, this is all dangerous, actually. This is a pathology.
It's funny how we've shared various stages of drinking too much, especially in your 20s. It's funny how like it took me living with someone who I was like, oh, they have like a problem, you
Right.
know, and I'm like, and then I went like, oh, but I was like, I live with them and I am drinking close to as much as they're drinking 5 nights of the week.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, oh, but so I'm like, it does make you go, oh, I'm not that far away from that bad, you
Yeah,
know? And then
yeah.
you're like, oh, gotta yank that steering wheel and get back on in my lane.
Also,
Yeah.
I will tell you the LaCroix thing, a lot of people in recovery that I've known will get up to 18 LaCroix a day once we stop drinking the
Oh,
beers.
sure.
You
I'm
know?
slamming them.
Yeah.
I'm slamming
They
them.
taste great.
Better than booze?
Yeah.
Baby?
And my one roommate he was a stand-up, so he had no capacity to express emotions at all. And he was the only one who said to me, like, hey, man, you need to figure this out. Like, it was the end
Something's up.
of a
Yeah.
gnarly whatever thing that happened. He came up to me, and he was like, the next day, I had bought booze in a blackout that night and a bunch of other crazy shit. And I was like, damn, if
If that guy's saying it,
if Mikey is telling me that I need to
Yes.
figure some shit out, I
Yeah.
need to take a look at this.
Right.
yes,
You know?
it is a bit of a bummer. Yeah, like, yeah.
So God bless the roommates too. Like it can,
God bless.
it can
the
be a
roommates.
family with all its dysfunctions.
That's right.
But it's
Yeah.
also, if you got to be the bad guy who has to cut, like, I do think that we underrate as roommates. We underrate how powerful of a tool shame really is.
Right.
Because I have moments that are burned in my brain where roommates shamed me in a tame way that stuck with me, that helped me grow. That I'm like, the only way I was going to learn that is for someone to be a little bit aggressive, not
Yeah.
passive aggressive,
Right.
but like outwardly like, hey,
Yeah.
really, really weird that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Or like
Feels bad to us.
that thing where you're trying to stack a can on top of an already overflowing trash can. Take it out.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Dude.
We're like, oh, okay. Oh, I'm being a dick. You
Yeah.
know, like,
And the way that it affects Ashley gets very like emotionally affected if there's too much bullshit around and too much
yes.
clutter.
And what I've learned is like, maybe that wasn't something that was hardwired in my blood, but I've learned to appreciate a clean house.
Yeah.
I've learned, like, she has taught me her ways, and now I do see the value in that.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, yeah, this is what adults do.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Where can the people find you?
Oh my gosh, I'm on the internet polluting it with videos because that's what you have to do to be a touring stand-up comedian now. You have to be putting videos on the internet every day. So I'm on there, Luke Null, Null, baby.
And the videos are great, and all your live shit. I saw you downtown LA like a month and a half ago. So fun, dude. Go see Luke.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, it was really cool, right? Talk Glass.
Yes, talk glass.
You can find us at Rebrand the Podcast on all the Instagrams. We have a Patreon. It's Rebrand the Pod. Go check it out. If you join, you get immediate access to the Discord where you can suggest episode themes like this one, which was a suggestion from
Friend of the pod, community manager of our wonderful Discord, and she does all the art for the social medias, which are all incredible. Thank you, Danny, for suggesting roommates and every other awesome thing that you do.
Thank you so much for listening, you guys.
Thank you, and be a nice roommate if you are one.
Oh, and copyright the Roomie app, and we're willing to consider an initial payment.
Some seed money.
Some seed money of $1.5 million.
Yes.
That's
Get that off
it.
the ground.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Rebrand!